The following program is underwritten by the Nevada Irrigation District. Since 1921, providing clean and healthy drinking and irrigation water to more than 24,000 homes, farms, schools, and businesses in Nevada and Placer counties.
Hi, I'm Lew Sitzer, Director of Nevada County Television, and this is NCTV Interviews. Thanks for watching. And today we're going to combine some of our old-timers program with learning about what Bill Falconi has been working on and contributing to Nevada City and to our local environment. Welcome, Bill.
Well, thank you, Lou.
It's great to have you here.
Same here, yeah.
Bill and I go back a ways because our kids went to school together.
That's true.
So we've kept in touch, and it's really been great to see what you've been up to. Right now, it's paving the streets.
Yeah, paving streets. Well, today has been a hectic day. And we're, right now as we speak, we're down on Lower Bridge Street paving.
And so it's going to be quite a facelift for Nevada City.
So 21 streets this year. Before we're finished, we're spending close to $450,000. So it's the most grandiose undertaking of street paving we've done to date. It's a 16-year program to pave every street in town. And we have a tax override, was a half-cent sales tax that we added in '06. And this is really our second full year. We really started a year before the initiative passed, not knowing whether or not it would, so we started the program anyway, and then the initiative kicked in. So we've been doing, this is '08, so we did 6, 7, and 8. So we're probably 20% into it now.
So this is going to continue for another 14 years
Well,
or so?
You know, we're hoping to accelerate it a little bit so that we can finish it probably in maybe 10 years. But the initiative allows for 16 years, you know, but we're thinking of, the council has talked about accelerating it. But regardless of whether it's 10 or 16, Lou, I don't think I'll be here for either one of them.
Well, hopefully you'll be here to enjoy the fact that it'll be done and you won't have to do it all.
Well, I hope that's true, yes.
Yeah. So your job as city engineer, for folks who don't know what a city engineer does, could you explain?
Well, a city engineer can take on a number of hats, but in a small town like Nevada City, the city engineer takes in all of the related infrastructure that applies to the city in general. And in Nevada City, it amounts to the water system, which serves the citizens, the sewer system, which serves the citizens, the roads, the sidewalks, the drainage systems, any new development, if somebody might do a little like we did recently up on the top of Broad Street, the co-housing, that kind of stuff, to coordinate with their sewer and their road construction and their encroachments. And then you work with improvements like we're working on, where we're doing. And when we overlay the streets, a lot of times we have to fix a water service or sewer service or something before we overlay the streets. We try not to dig up the street right after we overlay it. You know,
right?
You know, we try not to.
Yeah.
That was, you know.
Right, and I know you did some work on Boulder Street that involved some digging up.
Yeah. Boulder Street was pretty bad. We just finished Old Downeyville yesterday, which was a lot worse than I thought it was. Yeah, I walk around town, but I'm more on the east side, and it's on the west side. You know how you don't. And I told Vern, I said, the public works director, I told him, I said, I didn't realize it was this bad until I got out here really looking at it close.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's great. You know, it sounds like really in a small town, you're responsible for pretty much all the infrastructure.
Yes, and you know, we coordinate with planning if there's somebody, you know, doing building or you know, improvements. And Nevada City has this historical district, so it's got a kind of a special layer of, you know, when you go to change a roof, or you know, maybe a guy wants to put up solar panels, and that includes the police department. If there's something involving the police, whether it be an accident or something, they may ask me to make them a sketch or a drawing, or how steep the street is, or how wide it is, or where the right-of-ways are, and those kind of things.
Right. So if somebody wants to put in solar panels, does that now work with the historical district?
Well, that's a good question, because the answer to that is yes, it can, because what we have attempted to do is put in solar panels that are not readily visible from the downtown historical district. So because there's been a movement in that direction, the City Hall is currently looking at a solar panels on the roof. We're very close to putting them in. We have a flat roof. It's the old WPA City Hall, which is right into downtown, if everybody knows. It's, you know, right on Broad Street, halfway, you know, 2 blocks up from the National Hotel there, on the same side as the National. We're going to put solar panels on that, but it's inside on the flat roof, so you wouldn't see it from the street. They recently put solar panels in the new section that they built down off of Union Street, that whole section down in there.
Yeah,
those have solar panels on it. The Masonic Hall put solar panels on facing to the inside of the property. Now, there are certain areas of town that I can get into and see kind of a corner of it, but for the most part, most people wouldn't know they're there.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Really good to know.
And the city's also undertaken, and that I'm involved in too, is undertaken a small hydroelectric project at our sewer plant, because our sewer plant is down on Lower Jordan, and we've got about 100 feet of drop from the plant into the Deer Creek where we put our effluent, and so we're putting a small hydro to put it back into the system to offset probably about 20% of our use, because we're a big energy user down there, but everything helps.
I know there's been an effort to put Nevada City more into a sustainable energy conservation mode, so I know there's going to be a lot of interest in doing that.
We're currently also looking at putting panels on the swimming pool for Pioneer Park to offset that energy use, and at the City Public Works Yard on the top of Boulder Street. Now, neither one of those are in the historical district. Sewer plant, Pioneer Park, and the city yard are not in the historical district.
Right. Right. Well, one of the first things that came to mind in putting this show together was the Falconi Bridge. And I know that it's unfortunate we don't have pictures today for you, but we have a very historic bridge that was replaced. Actually, it probably was replaced more than once.
Well, the history of that is, first of all, it's not the Falconi Bridge.
Well, I call it the Falconi Bridge.
You know,
it's called Spring Street.
It's called the Galt Bridge.
Okay.
Galt was the mayor when they built the bridge that we replaced in 1903, and he died in office, and they named it Galt. But originally, when you came into Nevada City after 1849, you came in from the lower parts of the town and down towards, in those days, the main route came from Rough and Ready in this way. And because that's where there was heavily mining in Rough and Ready and down along those ravines there. From Marysville, that's the main route. So when they came into town, they came up what is called Bridge Street now, which is a street that comes from the creek right up next to the Miners Foundry. If you're coming up the hill, the Miners Foundry is on your right, and then you go over into this cross kind of diagonal and go between the Nevada Theater and the Bonanza Market. That is really Bridge Street. That was the original entrance into Nevada City. And then in 1862, they had a flood, and it washed it out because the bridge was way down on the creek. So they moved over onto Pine Street in 1862. But that bridge then became a suspension bridge with cables that was built by Halliday, the same gentleman that built the cable cars in San Francisco. That bridge stayed until 1903 when they built the bridge that we have today on a lighter scale. In other words, the members and everything were less heavy than they are now. And that was put in there in 1903, and it's a truss bridge reversed backwards. It's a railroad bridge. If you look at it, it looks like a railroad bridge. And so then in 1996, the city received special funding from the federal government to fund what they call a historical preservation grant for that bridge. We tore the old one down, which was that was 93 years after it was built.
Yeah, it was almost 100 years.
Almost 100 years, and we put in the new one on the same alignment as the old one. I mean, if you drive across the old one and drive across this one, there was not much difference in appearance. And to the average eye, even to myself, I have trouble now remembering. We replicated even the railings where you walk on the sidewalk. Those were replicated from the original, and then of course we put the whole new superstructure down on the bottom exactly like it was before, except the members are heavier. So to somebody who might have walked through here, or visited, or been familiar with in 1980, and then they go through today, they wouldn't hardly know the difference. And we were very careful to protect the environs. You can tell around it, which is Nevada City.
Nice rock work.
Nice rock work. That rock work was in the original 1862 bridge, left when they built the 1903. We harvested the rocks, cut them, you'll see them cut and put in there. Those are actually the same stones.
Well, before we move on to another topic, I want to clear up something. I've heard stories about elephants crossing the bridge and they're possibly collapsing the bridge in a big thing. Did this ever happen?
When we did the bridge, Bob Wyckoff, the historian, and he and Steve Cottrell did a kind of a history of the bridge system. Well, I guess the one thing, a couple things that I remember from that, you're kind of taxing my mind, but when they built the bridge in 1862, in those days there wasn't the quality control, and this part of the superstructure that was holding the cables collapsed when it had a oxen and team on it in 62, right after they built it. And it fell in the creek, and I think there was one gentleman killed. I'm not sure of that. Okay. But anyway, it was a little catastrophic anyway. And then they rebuilt it, and then they never had any trouble with it. The 1903 bridge, and I don't know if you can remember, Lew, walking across the 1903 bridge, but by the 90s it was pretty shaky. And by then we were limiting it to one car. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do, sure.
Well,
it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, well.
It wasn't 1903, it was actually in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, but I'm saying that era bridge.
Right.
It's my understanding that I've heard this, that there was a circus in town, and the elephants were to go across the bridge, and I guess they put them on, or I don't remember what happened, but it got pretty shaky or something. They backed them off or something. I can't tell you, but I've heard another thing that when World War II came, they started at Beale. Beale was not an air base; it was an army base, and they trained the soldiers that were going to go into Normandy, and the tank, but some of the tank people, and Patton was actually here, and some of his, and they trained tank battalions or whatever they were, and they were going up in the mountains for a maneuver, and they got one of those tanks on the bridge, and it started to shake so bad that they backed it off. And my mother told me that. She was here when they did it, so I know that was true. That one I know is true. So what they did was they went around, you know, because that used to be kind of the main route into town, you know.
Right,
it isn't
before the
as
freeway.
much today. Yeah.
Right. Well, one of the reasons we put this show together was because of the work that Bill has been doing on mapping out the town. And we're going to be showing you images of that. But give us a little history as to the maps and why this is needed at this point, or why you decided to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people who follow the city know that the city has been undergoing some reorganization in the last couple of years. And one thing was the sewer and water accounts. And what we were finding was they hired some people to reorganize and put them in a computer form, and you know, for billing and everything. We were still doing a lot by hand. And during the reorganization process, people were asking me, well, what about this and what about that? And so originally when the town was, you know, starts in 1850, well, they surveyed the town. H.S. Bradley did it. They paid him in 1869 to survey it. And then in 1932, E.C. Uren did an upgrade of the 1869 map. Kind of a upgrade, but you know, what the economics allowed at the time. So we had no other official maps or true maps since 1932. So as people were asking me questions, the people that were organizing the water and sewer accounts, I couldn't answer these things. You know, where is this? How does this work? How, you know, where is this lot? Where is it? So I thought, you know, so I thought, well, I'll create a city map. Well, you know, in my infinite wisdom, I thought it would take me 2 weeks, and it took me a year to actually create it. And I found that there was roughly 1,800 lots, and there's about 20 miles of streets, and there is about 1,350 acres, and there's 118 or 120 streets.
Wow. We wouldn't think of it, you know, when we think of Nevada City, you know, 1,800 lots. Yeah. Let's take a look at the map that our engineer, Bill Carquest, put together. This is, now start explaining this to us.
Well, now,
this is the large, what does this encompass?
This is the colored sections of the whole town. And I split them up into those colored sections so I could identify them. They really are arbitrary. The difference between the blue, the yellow, and the green in the middle is the historical district that was created initially in 1968 and then been amended a few times since then. That's the green in the middle there that we see it, so as we see it. And then, of course, in the real heart of the historical district is the downtown. As you can see, we're looking to from the bottom being to the east and to the west.
You can see the freeway going through it.
The freeway's right in the middle there under that H, and then Broad Street's to your right, and then of course Broad Street's the main one, and to the left is Spring, and to the right is Commercial, as we're looking. And the historical district had never been truly delineated to include all of the little lots. It was written out in a text form, but we didn't have a map that actually identified the lots and each number and so on. So I went ahead and actually put the exact district boundaries as they were, you know, on the map. That's the first truly historic map. We had kind of a drawing off of the 1932 H.S. Bradley, but it didn't define all the lots like that.
Right.
And then there were a number of lots that didn't have addresses because there was kind of no reason for them. They just evolved that way. Like the Catholic graveyard or the Pioneer graveyard on Upper West Broad. They didn't have lot numbers because, you know, there was no reason for them. They had no services or anything. So I went ahead and assigned every lot. And those that are, and what I did was when the council passed a resolution, we passed a resolution adopting the map, But the resolution states that just because I gave it a lot and the lot number doesn't mean it's an official or entitlement or anything like that.
Yeah, or will be taxed.
Yeah, or anything.
Yeah. Because I know there
It was
was
just for identification purposes.
Right. There was some, argument and disputes about who was in the historical district,
Yeah,
who isn't,
That's
who's
gone
in the
now.
business district, who isn't, because of all the.
Because they didn't have an accurate set of maps. That's just what drove this, Lou.
Yeah.
It was those kind of questions. Well, is my lot in the historical district? Well, I kind of think so, Now that's the Northridge annexation you're looking at up there, like the Northridge, and that's Manzanita Ravine, which is now on the freeway, and Lower Coyote.
So
now,
you really
as you
got
get
into the details.
Yeah, you get into the green now. We're getting into the downtown, say, and Church Street. You see 201 Church Street on the far right there. That's the courthouse, and then we drop down into the middle of that intersection to the top left there. That would be the Friar Tuck's and the building that burned down in that corner there, and then in the pink that you see above, or orange or red or whatever that is, that's you're out of the historical district. The 203 York Street and the 205 happen to be the New Moon Cafe and the Tinnery. Those are in the historical district, but if you get to the parking lot in back of the New Moon, that's out of the historical district. So, and you see, some of it runs down the middle of the street, some of it runs down the lot lines.
Yeah. Now, I would assume, though, that some of these boundaries are still can't be changed.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
In other words, the historical district could be extended or contracted.
It's never been contracted, but it has been expanded. The original was, I think, and I've worked so many hours on this, the original one was ordinance number 338, and that comes around about 1968. And then there was 334, and then there's 8905 and 9205. So there was different ordinances that were passed adding to it. And if you look on the map as we see it, where Pine Street comes down and crosses Deer Creek, the bridge was not totally in the historical district, the one we were talking about, the Galt Bridge. That bridge was half in and half out. So they amended that little piece to put it all in so that it would get the historic preservation money. That's kind of things that happen.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So now, do you consider the map complete?
Pretty much complete now, yeah.
So
I've found a few errors on it, but it's really ready for public. We're going to sell it to the public for $25.
And if you want to see it, it's
If you
on
want to see
display.
it'll be posted in City Hall. Alan Rogers has been on a vacation in Cornwall, and so we're waiting for him to frame it for us. So it's not going to be ready till he gets back.
Okay, so it can be seen at City Hall.
Yeah.
And appreciated again, I imagine.
It's on the wall in City Hall in the Weatherall room, but it's not framed.
Right.
But it's there already, so people can see it. And then I took the historical district and blew up the historical district on a little 11 by 17 that could be printed on the Xerox, and people can get that for $5. That's available too now.
Okay, well, great. Again, I'm sure you've had lots of compliments and appreciation for the work done, because I'm sure it took a lot of volunteer hours besides what you get paid for.
Yeah. Now, after we've done this, I've overlaid the zoning on top of it now, the city zoning, which we had an old zoning map, but once again, you couldn't tell by the lot lines, were not that well delineated. And also, I took, now Vern Taylor and I are making sewer and water masters, so that when the public works people go into the field, they've got, and they're little booklets, they're made up into, so that we can go into the field and work off.
Sure, these are actually working documents.
Yeah,
this is the kind of thing that's necessary for a home, a town, a city. In order for it to function properly, you've got to understand where all these underground
devices are.
Right, definitely important. Well, we've got a couple of minutes left. I want to touch on your family, because you've been here all your life, born and raised, and wondering about how far you go back.
Well, my mother was born in Nevada City. She died about 4 months ago. She was just under 94. So she was born in Nevada City. My dad was not born in Nevada City. He came here as a little kid, but he was here always. He grew up in Nevada City. That's the only thing he remembers. And my dad worked for County Public Works, so you know the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
So, you know, and so you know, we've lived in Nevada City. My grandparents on both sides came to Nevada City, and my mother's father came to Nevada City in the 19th century. He was here way back. So they've been here 115, 20 years.
And that counts for a lot. For the people who are recent immigrants to the area, it's kind of, in a way, an old boys network of old timers who have been here, not just men, but women too.
No.
Yeah, women. And so there's this
Some
whole...
very prominent women over the years
Right,
that,
so,
you know, that were, you know, ran the post office and different things that were, I can remember when I was younger. There was a lot of prominent women there.
So one of the things that we want to feature more and more on our shows is looking at the families of the Nevada City folks and going back into the history of, because those families are still here. You know, they still have an important role in,
they are still here.
in the and how the town functions. And so it's part of our history. You know, I'm really glad that you could be here to bring some of that history to light. What's the future for you?
Well, you know, I've been here since 1972. I started working when we did the gas lights downtown, and
another great addition.
Another great addition. We did that, and I was working under Pat Ingram in those days. Pat was a civil that would work for the city. He was really the city engineer. I was a junior engineer. And then, so I've worked for the city off and on since 1972. And I worked as a consultant for many years, and now I'm full-time now. So, so, you know, that's getting up on 36 or 70 years, you know. And so, you know, a couple more years, and that's about enough, you know.
Well, look forward to hearing more about what you're doing. I want to also invite people who have been here a long time. We do a historical archive show. We want to document the history before it disappears. And so if you have family, friends, historical stories, ways in which you would like to share your lives or lives of family members with the community, please contact NCTV. And with that, I'd like to thank Bill.
Thank you.
For being here with us. I want to thank Ben Menzies for helping on the floor, and Marilyn Blom, Gail Woodman, and as ever, Bill Carquest, our video engineer. Please continue to watch NCTV, become a member, and tune in again. Thanks a lot.